Arun?
Yes, Mansi. Glad you're back online.
Yes, sorry about that. All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants from different parts of the world. My name is Mansi Sachdev, and I will be the moderator for today's discussion on behalf of UN Habitat India team. The webinar today is for 90 minutes, and we're very honored to have distinguished participants and keynote speaker for this discussion. The topic of our webinar today is River Cities and Climate Action, where we have exemplary case studies from Africa and South Asia being presented by accomplished city leaders, urban practitioners, and designers. We'll start the session with a welcome address from UN Habitat India, followed by a keynote address from the National Mission on Clean Ganga, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India, and case study presentations from the industry. Interactive question and answer round and closing remarks eventually. So now I take privilege in welcoming our esteemed presenters and participants to be a part of this webinar. And at the outset, I would request all the attendees to take a short poll, which you'll see on the screen. Has everybody taken the poll quickly? All right, so 60% of us are professionals, about 20% of public officials on our webinar today, researchers, students, and folks that I've mentioned others. So most of us are from the industry, and it's actually very exciting to be talking about this topic today with like-minded professionals. So we hope it will be an interesting discussion, and we'll get varied perspectives. I'd like and request to the participants to post their questions and comments in the chat box or in the comment section. And we'll take these up with our presenters towards the end of the webinar. And now I invite Ms. Parul Agarwal to give the welcome address. Ms. Parul Agarwal is our country program manager for UN Habitat India office. She has extensive experience in implementing urban initiatives for sustainable spatial planning and local economic growth, while applying urban design concepts for visible urban transformations. Prior to India, she managed the Clean and Green Cities program at UN Habitat in Afghanistan, which was developed to improve the lives of the urban poor. This program had a special focus on women by providing job opportunities and stability through paid work. Ms. Agarwal has a Master's of Public Administration from Columbia University in New York and a Master's of Planning from University of Southern California in Los Angeles, USA. Over to you, Parul.
Thank you, Mansi, and greetings, everyone. I'm really excited about the topic today. Since the dawn of civilization, cities and rivers are inextricably linked. Almost all, if not all, the capital cities in the world today are located along rivers and water bodies. In India, cities are revered and are very much central to the cultural identity of our cities. With India's ongoing urban trends, a majority of us will reside in cities by 2030, and therefore we need to ensure that the cities and river systems are harmonized. The Central Water Commission has identified 20 river basins in India, of which Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Godavari are the largest. Over the years, we have seen how cities have been overexploited. It has led to degradation in the water quality, loss of biodiversity and ecological resources, and have also resulted in changes to the natural course of the river itself. The topic today is most pertinent in the current times with the climate crisis becoming a reality. The latest IPCC Working Group report, launched in August 2021 this year, stresses that there is no going back from some of the changes human activities have already made to the climate system. The theme of World Cities Day 2021, which is celebrated on October 30th, this year is Adapting Cities for Climate Resilience, and it is a call for action for emphasizing mainstreaming climate action and green growth in our urban areas. Cities must deploy a range of solutions today for a climate responsive development along the rivers and river system. The built form and infrastructure along the river banks and also in the upland peripheries must be adaptable to respond to the different types of extreme weather conditions. And similarly, ecological areas in the rivers and cities must be conserved and enhanced at the same time. We need to utilize all policy and planning tools and solutions available with us to truly transform the relationship between cities and rivers and incubate innovations and new technology to harness them for better climate change solutions. The range of solutions will differ from city to city, but we must work together to ensure that the green transition benefits the most vulnerable. A symbiotic relationship between the cities and rivers will contribute to urban health and well-being for all. So that's where today I'm really delighted and grateful to our keynote speaker and all the distinguished panelists who have joined us today to share their knowledge and perspective on the actions that are needed for cities to coexist with the rivers. And so thank you for your time and interest, and looking forward to an engaging discussion. Over to you, Mansi.
Thank you so much, Parul. So I would now like to welcome Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra, Director, National Mission on Clean Ganga with the Ministry of Jal Shakti. With over 34 years of experience as an Indian Administrative Services Officer, Mr. Mishra is currently leading the NMCG, Government of India, as its Director General. Since 2018, he has spearheaded the mission, which has adopted a holistic vision for the protection, conservation, and rejuvenation of the River Ganga Basin and its riverine ecosystem. Under Mr. Mishra's leadership, several crucial policy interventions have been made, and he has made pioneering efforts to develop a framework for river cities by mainstreaming rivers and water bodies into the city master plans. At present, he's also looking after the conservation of rivers outside the Ganga Basin and is developing a national river rejuvenation framework. In addition, Mr. Mishra has the expertise in the field of disaster management and training and is a national level trainer in incident response and command systems. A very warm welcome, Mr. Rajiv Mishra. We thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedule and gracing this occasion. We are very privileged to have you here today, and I now request to please deliver the keynote address to set the tone for this discussion.
Thank you so much for inviting me. So thank you, Mansi ji. Thank you, Parul. And this is a very apt occasion to meet on the occasion of World Cities Day. I mean, we are celebrating that. And also, I must compliment UN Habitat and the organizers for thinking of this theme, the river cities and climate action. Personally, it gives me great satisfaction because we are joining hands to talk and think together about river cities. A few years back, when I had started discussing this as a kind of a very separate, exclusive group of stakeholders or city managers to join hand, perhaps it was not such a common thing. But in last 3 years, I see quite a lot of people, quite a lot of organizations now taking up the cause of river city or applying their mind to look at river and city together. I quite vividly remember in 2018, I had organized on the World Cities Day a function along with UN Habitat, in which we had actually tried to look at river in its holistic form. And we were trying to look at 3 themes then. One was river and economy, one was river and city, and one was river and people. And I think they are not exclusive of each other. When you think of river and city, actually within city, economy also comes, and without people, how can you think of a city? So I think they are all highly interconnected and highly not at all exclusive concepts. So thereafter, I also remember we started working with several organizations in looking at master plans in India of the cities. and then looking at how they treat river, water as a kind of by way of protecting them, by way of conserving them, by way of developing them. And does our master plan do justice, full justice to these ecological entities? And then we realized we started working and we came up with a kind of guidelines how we can mainstream all of them. So it's very important, I think, giving you the example of Indian context. If we look at River Ganga, which is the most important river in the country, our national river, its basin is the largest basin. It connects people culturally, economically. It's a lifeline of our country. More than almost 50% of the population is supported by this river basin. Very, very rich in agriculture, very rich in biodiversity, several things. So when we look at conserving a basin, what comes to our mind are the challenges. And again, among challenges, what comes to our mind is the pollution in the river. And I'm really very happy to also see distinguished panelists from other countries who are going to share their experience in their country about the challenges. I'm quite sure some of the challenges are unique to the country, but mostly they are also common in terms of their applicability. So what comes to our mind, I mean, to clean a river or to rejuvenate a river, the main challenge you think is cities, the urban system, because most of the dense pollution comes from the urban systems, from the drains, from untreated sewage coming, or even the industries located in the urban area, they contributing to it. And I am now looking at river as little broader sense, because river also does not mean only the river which is just flowing through your city. River means you have to think of the water bodies. You have to think of this as a kind of system. So in our mission, which is called Namami Gange, the literally it means we salute you, Mother Ganga. So it's a kind of salutation. It's a kind of paying respect to a river. I think that is the key. That's the key to understand. And city managers also cannot think themselves separated from the river. But I can tell you, I can share a lot of experience, which I don't think we have time, but in the case studies, perhaps others will say, sometimes city managers look at river as a kind of separate thing. Who wants river? Just let's go sit back and think and ask this question, who wants the river? Now, in the city, someone will say, this should be done by irrigation department or water resource department, or something on ecology comes, let someone from the pollution control board handle it. City manager thinks that he has to do the sanitation within the city. Who will keep the floodplains clean? Who will keep the riverfront clean? Who will keep the water bodies or the wetlands, urban wetlands protected, free from encroachment and also clean? So I think these are the things which cannot be done by someone coming from outside the city or some basin level person to come and tell you. So I think the cities, which are actually a big challenge for river health globally, should also emerge as a solution provider, as a solver of that problem. And that is perhaps the thing where the river and cities have to be thought together. Concept of river city, planning for river city as a kind of a special emphasis is very important. If you look at India, we call more than 100,000 population cities as category 1 city, class A city. And they are also called Amrut city in the name of a program to rejuvenate urban system. Now, out of 500 such cities of 100,000 plus population, more than almost 300 are river cities. And extending the concept of river to include the lakes and big lakes. So there are several cities which may not be having directly a river, but they grew because they are on the bank of a large lake. So ultimately, something which has given us sustenance, how long we can neglect it and how long we can survive if we keep on neglecting it. So that's very, very important thing. And now we all know, I think this is again a very right opportunity. The theme is your better cities, better life and adopting cities for climate resilience. Again, I think on 4th World Habitat Day also, we had met in some webinar with some like-minded people. And then the theme of World Habitat Day and World Cities Day are not different. I mean, we are again looking there, we looked at accelerating urban action for a climate-free world. Now we are looking again at that. So if you look at, and I think we are, the whole world is meeting in Glasgow to again deliberate upon what are the challenges on climate and how the cities can be climate resilient should be our thought. And I can tell you very clearly, the cities have become heat centers, the way we have designed the cities. So I think you are very right in saying that the planning and design is the key. The way cities have been designed in past, perhaps we have to think in a different way. And cities from becoming the heat center actually have to look at, and the most important thing, the simplest thing is to look at the water cycle. And are our landscape, are our built environment in tune with the water cycle, or are we deviating from it, or are we destroying it, or are we obstructing it? So I think that is where the key will lie in having a good water sensitive urban design and planning. Again, we hear all these terms very often. To practice it is not so easy. To make a city manager understand it, to make a city manager become sensitive about climate change. Often what happens, I am telling you from my experience in administration, we talk about climate change at a global level. Country's responsibility, what we will achieve at the global level, what the country is committing, but what we can do at the level of city, how we can improve that. So I think such kind of discussion, such kind of forum is also a very good opportunity to build that capacity of the city managers. Again, that's a big challenge, to sensitize them about developing river sensitive master plan, water sensitive urban design. We have conducted some studies where actually a few cities in UP, we worked with CSE, and then we have come out that if we design the open space, a large amount of water, the rainwater can be conserved, which can actually help in recharging the aquifer and improving the floodplains, and recharging the river through the groundwater recharge in the lean season by way of base flow. So, so this is again something. So I think before just to summarize things, we have to look at the city manager, river cities, as I'm not, or a planner or a policy maker at different level. Look at river cities as a kind of concept. Look at river and city management together. See, rivers have been flowing through many cities. Rivers were there before we came. Rivers were there before cities developed. Rivers were there before even agriculture started. So I think they have perhaps more right over their own water, and rivers do not belong only to the city goers or city dwellers or human beings. Rivers also belong to the plants. Rivers also belong to the aquatic life. So when we look at the river, we have to look at a holistic urban river management plan as far as urbans are concerned. And let us look at the river as a guest to our city. It's entering into our river, our city in some condition, condition A. It's leaving our city in condition B. Is B better than A? If any guest comes to our house, how we honor all countries, all of us have a culture of giving them due regard, making them comfortable. We don't pollute them. We don't make our guests dirty. So I think with that kind of thing, and we also see that they go in a hail-hearty condition. So if we actually, that should be the key of our thinking. Also develop river sensitive communities, the urban communities. Look at riverfront, develop it. It can be a source of economy for the river, but develop it ecologically. Protect the floodplains. Respect the right of the river over its own water, its own land. And I think all the water bodies, I think you have to design in such a way. Look at rainwater as a kind of source. Again, don't look at a storm water as a kind of enemy. We should get rid of the storm water, otherwise it will flood us. I think before the rain comes, if we can develop a good storage through the open space, through the water bodies, perhaps we can retain a lot of this storm water. Can this storm water be used? How can we reuse some of the treated wastewater? If we create capacity of treatment, how can we sustain? How can we ensure the operation and maintenance? What happens to solid waste? How we can see that they don't get dumped on the floodplains, and how we can actually also work with the circular economy. I think this is a very, very right time. Perhaps globe is more sensitive about climate change now. We are seeing in our cities, in our life, in every country, the impact of climate change is much more direct now, whether it is unpredictable rainfall or heavy rainfall, whether it is urban flooding or drinking water problem in summer. So all these things are very much visible. So I think it's very important to look at it as a kind of common problem, and solution must emerge from all our action, and without involving people, without conserving biodiversity, whether it is aquatic biodiversity or riparian biodiversity, it will not be possible. The cities are heat centers, and water and vegetation can be a big cooling effect. So I think cities will also grow, water bodies, the local water body sources will also grow, and you will also be able to be ready to mitigate the impact of climate change. The heavy rain which is coming as a result of climate change, if we design our cities well, perhaps that can also solve our problem of shortage of water or less flow in the river. So I think we have to connect all the dots. And I am really very happy to see the people joining from different countries to share their thoughts, the case studies, because that's very essential. So we are also trying, with the help of like-minded agencies, we are trying to develop a river city alliance to take it further, to make it more institutional, where perhaps you can share your thoughts, your experiences and best practices from one city to another city, on the bank of one river to another river, another city somewhere within India or somewhere in the globe. So that alliance, that kind of thing can be very, very important, and institutions like UN Habitat can also support, can also carry this message further throughout globe. So once again, I compliment for organizing this session. I welcome, I convey my greetings to all the delegates who are going to share their thoughts, and also those who are joining. Let's remember ourselves, remind ourselves on the World City Day that it's our duty to keep the cities in good condition, to improve quality of life. And this cannot happen unless your water body, your rivers are also happy. So once again, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra. We really appreciate your thoughts and for setting the context and giving us this very fresh perspective on river cities and river health. And under your leadership, NMCG has already given a brand new dimension to planning for rivers and with rivers. So we're very grateful for your presence today. Thank you. All right. So we now move to the body of this webinar and the most riveting part, which are the case study presentations from Kenya, Malaysia, and India, highlighting the initiative towards championing the river for a very resilient urban future. Each presenter would have 15 minutes, and I would request the presenters to stay within the set time. Our timekeeper will alert you on the 12-minute and the 15-minute mark to remind you of the time limit. So without further ado, our first case study presenter is Mark Ojal, who is an urban designer and placemaking expert at the UN Habitat headquarters in Nairobi. Mark loves championing unlikely alliances. He connects ideas, people, and places, bringing together policymakers, professionals, civil society leaders, and community groups to a collective understanding of common urban challenges and overlapping agendas. Professionally, Mark is an urbanist and a mobilizer. He helps build consensus, inspire action, and bring ideas and concepts into reality. His interest areas include places for people, health and well-being in cities, urban futures and urban risks, and governance. He's increasingly intrigued by the science-urbanism nexus. Over to you, Mark, to share your insights and experience on the Nairobi River Life Project.
Thank you so much, Mansi. I'll share with you what we have in Nairobi. Greeting colleagues from across the world. Just give me a second.
Yes, we can see your screen now, Mark.
Yes. It's a real honor and a pleasure really to have time to share with you what you are doing in Nairobi as UN Habitat and also with the government of Kenya. We have this project we call the Nairobi River Life Project, which again, just reflecting on the keynote address, we're thinking about how to rethink the relationship between the city and the river. And again, the reason why Nairobi was constructed where it is because of the water systems, it's because of the basin. So again, the river is the source of life, hence the River Life Project. The River Life Project is really about bringing life back into the river and the river bringing back life into the city. We are focusing on one river at the moment. We call it the Nairobi River here in the middle. So we have three main rivers that pass through Nairobi City. We have one which is on top here called Mathare River. And then here we have the Ngong River. What you see, and again, it has been mentioned earlier, that the threat to river is actually posed by human settlements. What you see here in yellow are informal settlements. And you realize that, again, when you talk about climate vulnerability, the people who are most affected by flooding, for example, are actually the low income. But also when you talk about poor sanitation and pollution to the river, it's actually the low income people who are who can be seen as victims also of the city planning. So when we start thinking about the city, where do we start? Do we start with where human settlements are? As one of our colleagues says, you cannot make omelette without breaking the egg. So even as we think about key ideas, and especially at the UN level, we talk about human rights. It's important. But then what are the public goods that are also important? When we talk about health and well-being, access to clean environment, we have to ensure that these are at the core of our planning process. But then there are certain things that we also cannot avoid, like, evictions. But then the question is, how do we evict people? What is the process of resettlement? So that's really where the catch is. What you see as the indicated in red here is part of the city center. This is our CBD, but the red one is a part that we see as a possible creative district. River regeneration cannot succeed without creating jobs. That's really at the core of regeneration, that we have to have economic regeneration. We have to ensure that there is social regeneration. What was mentioned earlier also, safety. I like what was mentioned earlier about river having 3 cross-cutting themes: people, economy, and safety. That's really at the heart of our project also here in Nairobi. So we are keen on creating jobs. This is just to show where the site is. The source of Nairobi River is not very far from the city. We have a swamp, which was the source of clean water for Nairobi for the longest time possible. And now Nairobi gets its water from 84 kilometers away from the city. And again, this is not something that is new to many cities, the water scarcity issue. I know even India cities have this everyday crisis or everyday risk, and I think for us, we need to think about water sensitive urban planning and design. How do we weave water planning back into urban planning? How do we ensure that even as we think about sustainable planning and design, ensure that water use in the city is within the city? In terms of challenges, challenges are common. I won't really mention, I won't really dwell on them much, but maybe just to highlight, encroachment on the river systems is really a big problem in Nairobi, where again, conflicting planning legislations, inadequate coordination of planning regimes, I think really results into this, and of course, corruption also. And then we have poor siting. We have one of the largest dump sites along the river systems. We have buildings not designed to face the river. So they actually, show their back to the rivers. So one of the challenges we have, which is also an opportunity to think about how to retrofit buildings to face the river, to embrace the river, to embrace the water. And then pollution and incompatible land uses, from garages being located next to the rivers, from public markets also being located next to the rivers, which even though they're good, but they pose serious management problems. And then we also have the challenge of inequality, concentrated poverty and squalor along the river systems, which of course comes with a lot of social vulnerability. In terms of opportunities, which I would really like to focus on a bit more, is the river system presents an opportunity for integrated redevelopment of the city. What was also said earlier, how can we ensure that city planning is part of river planning? And these two really speaking together. So we see this as a tool for replanning the city along river systems. Community-led urban transformation. Again, this is something that we see if we own the city, if we own the river system, if communities own these systems, then they will protect them. We also see opportunities to create a network of walking and cycling infrastructure. Again, rethinking mobility and how people move around the city, and climate action. If we are really to ensure that greenhouse gas emissions are reduced, we need to think about mobility. Then water storage and recreation. This was also mentioned earlier. So again, highlights why we need this River City Alliance for sharing lessons. And of course, enterprise development. Can we ensure that we have a river-related economy or a creative economy? In terms of the vision, we have really tried not to suggest the kind of vision we are looking at, but to give guidance on what the river's vision should look like. One, it should promote recreation, sports, and urban tourism. It should also create employment and livelihood opportunities, especially for the young people who are really unemployed, but also for the creative economy, for the creative class. How can we ensure that it becomes a source of livelihood, that there's some form of place attachment with the river? The other thing we are looking at is embracing a 24-hour economy across the whole city and along the whole corridor, embracing the water and connecting places. So here we mean river can be used as the connective matrix that connects different neighborhoods, connects different institutions or markets, different destinations, so to speak. And then we use this, again, I mentioned earlier, to promote walking and cycling, connecting different neighborhoods and places of interest again. And then for us to invite people, the key is inviting people to the river, to embrace the river. We have to ensure that design is of the highest quality. This will also ensure that the river is a safe place for women and children, and for girls also, because there's proper lighting that is safe. There are safe walkways and bike lanes. People can now go there. And then how to reinforce culture and identity. Events. When you think about parties, when you think about river festivals, I think Malaysia has a lot of this. We can actually have cities become places of culture, you know. And then the other thing is healthy ecosystems, ecosystem-based adaptation, thinking about nature forests, nature reserves, neighborhood forests across the system. If we can think about how this brings life back into the city, would be so important. Access to nature is so critical. How we look at the Nairobi River Life project in Nairobi is as a complex urban project, really integrated. We're looking at integrated corridor planning, looking at such things as mixed-use development, integrated infrastructure planning and design, integrated solid waste management, and sanitation systems. And then on the extreme right of my screen, we have socioeconomic transformation. Here we have to think about decent jobs for young people. How can we ensure that creative industries and culture are part of this, that it's really owned by the people? How can we ensure that startups and incubation, the small and medium enterprises, are part of the regeneration project? And then circular economy and green economy that is related to the river is really at the heart of the regeneration. And one of the things we are really keen on is establishing a catalytic jobs fund for the river, to create green jobs, to create river-related jobs and a river-related economy. At the core of this is strong coordination, governance, and institutional support. We cannot talk about regeneration without a strong governance and institutional support. Now, this is something that we have to think about by rethinking policies and institutional change or institutional development to ensure that the people in this are really part of the process, are also owning the system. At the core of this, and again, speaking to River City Alliance idea, best practices and peer support from different cities, trainings, and strong and innovative communication. Without communication, it's impossible to achieve the change we are looking at. And it's also impossible to get the city to be a part of this. Some of the methods we are looking at are situational analysis, which is more of traditional planning approach, but then co-visioning, that this is a shared vision for the river. Through youth-led competitions, young people transforming small open spaces along the river, and then they win This year they were winning $1,000 for every change. So with that, you create a network of community champions who will really, protect the river and ensure that the corridor is clean. The other thing we are big on is digital storytelling. If we encourage stories of the river, then people on the river, they relate to the river. And then one of the things we are looking at is also Nairobi River's Ideas Festival, to create an identity for the river, to create a whole month of public participation. How do people relate to the river? What is their aspiration? What is their ambition? And then we have design competitions, an urban dinner. Again, Nairobi River dinner is something really to ensure that the project is embraced at that high political level. Of course, we also have a lot of advocacy, including Run for Life, Nairobi River Marathon, and transformative urban projects, which will be at different stages. How we look at this as a multi-year project. Starts with the fast track projects to really ensure visibility and public acceptance that there's something happening finally. And then we have catalytic projects. We know that all these are political projects and are pegged on political life cycles. So we are looking at how can we ensure that these are also providing political dividend, that they have political support through legacy projects, we're able to do that. And then we don't forget that we have long-term objectives that take up to 10 years or even 20 years to actually change. So as we think about legacy projects, we need to think about policies, legal and institutional instruments, and flagship projects at the end. And of course, this goes with integrated corridor regeneration plan. And then of course, we have a timeline that cuts across different project times, and of course, electoral cycles from first year to fourth year. So again, through this, we have projects that are highly visible to ensure that people are engaged through all this. One thing I wanted to highlight is that documentation or documentary development, if you look at my last line, somewhere here, it's across the whole line. And of course, we also have continuous urban dialogue series to ensure that conversations are a part of this. And then all these are really around public engagement, which cut across all this, the whole project. I think the other thing that I wanted to highlight as I close is that the project is a multi-partner project. Government cannot do it alone. The private sector cannot do it alone. International development partners cannot do it alone, and even communities. So for us in Nairobi, this is a multi-stakeholder that cuts across institutional domains, from the government, being coordinated by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and then international development partners being coordinated by UN Habitat. We have the private sector being coordinated by the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Then we have civil society, we have media, and others being coordinated by the professionals, the Architectural Association of Kenya. Everybody has a role. In river regeneration projects, everyone has a role. And we really welcome everybody to work on this and this kind of approach to be taken forward. But we also would also like to hear what you are doing in different parts of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mark. A very, very interesting project. And you're absolutely right in saying that you need a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder approach to solve some of these issues. And we really do need to turn our backs, towards the rivers again, and to look at them holistically. So thank you for that. I'd now request the participants and all the attendees to take a short poll before we move to the next case study. And you'll just see the poll on your screens. We'll take about 20-30 seconds for the poll. Still about 20% of the attendees taking the poll. Okay. All right. So as you can see, we have a tie between sewage inflow and dumping of solid waste as the biggest challenges that river cities face today, followed by untreated industrial effluents and habitation in low-lying areas. So, with that, we move to the next case study, and we're moving eastwards to Malaysia, a country which was home to me for 4 years, and I had the absolute privilege to work on this project that is being shared today. We have with us Puan Nurzaini, who I was very lucky to work with during the design phase of the project that we have today for the presentation. Nurzaini Binti Nurdin is the Deputy Director of Project Implementation and Building Maintenance Department of Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur, or the City Hall KL. Born in the multicultural city of Penang, she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Architecture and a Bachelor of Architecture from the University of Newcastle, Australia. At DBKL, she has been responsible for urban design and planning, heritage, building control, city beautification, infrastructure planning, building and urban space maintenance. She's actively working towards upgrading and reinventing KL in the post-pandemic era into a more sustainable, energy efficient and low carbon footprint city. She's also looking at turning unused spaces in the city for community integration and economic returns. We welcome you, Puan Nurzaini, and the floor is all yours now.
Thank you very much, Mansi. Can you see? Okay, so lucky me for all the experiences that I have working with all of you. I'm currently the director of the project maintenance. So it's nice to get all the experience. So sharing the story of River of Life with all of you is that when it started earlier than everyone knows, actually, early in the year Y2K, year 2000, Kuala Lumpur was very, very, we are feeling that we are losing everything. We are losing the economy, we are losing the people, we are losing the social. It was fast becoming a very mundane city. So the federal government was kind of worried, and we wanted a quantum leap in economy, especially for the country. And then lucky for us in Kuala Lumpur also, because we were the major city in Kuala Lumpur, the entrance for Malaysia. And then federal government decided that we have to do something for Kuala Lumpur. If not, we are going to lose, the city, and we are going to lose the country, because people are talking about Malaysia like they're talking about Kuala Lumpur as Malaysia. So Kuala Lumpur was supposed to be very big, and we were not at that time. Year 2000. So what happened is a federal government decided to call for a lab. All the subject matter experts, all of us, we went for a lab actually, and we were supposed to come back to the government after 6 weeks, feeding the government of how to do the quantum leap, how to turn over the country, and how to turn over Kuala Lumpur as the major city, so that we will become part of the world cities, and we will become a more livable cities. We were beginning to rot out in the world livable cities. We are losing economy to several of our neighbors and everything. So suddenly someone made a decision that we are going to be developing our city into a river frontage. And the worst part of it is we didn't have a river at that time. So we fronting a river, it was we had some tiny monsoon stream turning into a river. It was a drain all over. And how could we become part of a world livable city where they all have the beach and the frontage and the ocean and the sea, and Kuala Lumpur has only a drain? So what happened is we said, yes, we're going to take the challenge. It may be small now, it may be just 2 tiny streams coming across the city, but we are going to change it. So it started with river beautification. Definitely, it wasn't river cleaning at all. So we were discussing river beautification like all the other countries were doing it. And suddenly we decided that beautification is not the sustainable project, and we've got to clean the river first. So we start counting our money, of course, because river cleaning is not there, it's drain cleaning actually. So when we counted the money, we counted how to do it, and then we started with, okay, if we are going to spend 3 billion in river cleaning, we need to recoup the money. So we talk about land development. And then we realized that we can actually recoup about 4 million. Then we go back to our river beautification. So you see that we have 3 billion ringgit Malaysia for river cleaning, 1 billion for river beautification, which we decide that we can recoup from 4 billion of investment from the government over the economy around the city. So we went into it, not having the money, not having the river itself. So we started planning, and like all planning, like Mark was saying, they're all the same in all the world. It's all about the same thing. How do we plan it? How do we integrate the city to the people, the city, the river to the people, the river to the economy? And again, we have pollution. We have a lot of people living by the river. And from the beginning of urbanization of Kuala Lumpur in the 19th century, river has always been where we throw our garbage and where we throw our sewerage thing, and all the affluent goes into the river. So we took that challenge and we were going to change the river. So we did that actually with all the planning. Then we become, can you like change, or can you like control the, we go back to,
Yes.
I want to talk about river cleaning actually more
Sure.
than anything else. Okay, so we plan it, we find the money, we decided that we are going to face the river. Like Mark was saying just now, we wanted to face the river. So we start building a lot of things, and we realized the challenge was at river cleaning. So Kuala Lumpur is right at the center of the river, not the end, but the center of the river. That was the hardest. And then we have people coming from all over the place around it. And Kuala Lumpur is actually a basin. So we've got a basin right in the middle of the city. And we've got the river coming from everywhere else, and they are going to be stagnant at the basin. So we started to clean it up. We started to actually protect from flooding, which we don't have anymore, thank God. And then our river was touching class 3. Class 3 is like unsafe for body contact. Okay, and we were touching class 4, which is very, very dangerous. And then we went into class, we wanted to be class 2. Class 2 means you cannot consume it, but you can actually touch and have recreation into it. So what happened is that for the first time in history, I think, we came together, local authority, federal government, drainage and irrigation department, and everyone else came together. And we have 27 government agencies, 4 ministries, 2 states, and 3 municipalities coming together. And we were working for the first time to actually clean the river. And then things happen. It changes, and our river is now class 2. We were touching class 4. We went to class 3, and currently we are class 2, and we've got our fish already back in the river. We've got otters coming in. We've got butterflies in the city. We have never seen butterflies for a long time, and birds were coming in, and it does change. It took a long time, but it does change the whole thing. People were actually eating the fish from the river, so it's edible. And you know that when there is fish and when there is edible fish in the water is clean. That is just nice. River cleaning hasn't completed yet. It's going to be completed in 2024. So what you see now, sometimes it looks clean, sometimes it's not so clean, but it's just on the way. We believe that we are going to reach to be very, very soon. And if you go now to the to the river frontage, I like to show, if you go further down, you say we talk about budget already, but can we go and have a look at river, what we are looking, just some of the examples that we have in the city here. So in the city right now, like I said just now, people were leaving the city. No one wants to recreate themselves. No one wants to cycle in the city. Cycling is useless for a country like Malaysia. It's hot, it's humid, but people are coming back. So currently we are having people living in the city, which brings up the economy because people are beginning to build restaurants. We have restaurants in the city. We didn't have that because at 7 o'clock it's just like total shutdown for the city before, and people are now living in the city. We have shops now, shops open until very, very late. We have eateries that never close in the city, so it's a 24 hours thing. So again, thank you very much. We got it. We actually achieved it. If you look into some of the
Sorry to interrupt you, Puan, but could you tell us which slide you are at?
Can we go to page 20, please?
20, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just want to show you what we had before, the little monsoon drain that we have at page 20.
Yeah.
Okay, you see, so we started with a little monsoon drain. Everybody was facing out, and we built a very high wall because we don't want to see the river, and it was very, it was smelling very bad. So everyone started to build walls against the river, and we don't see anything. We don't see a river in the city, and suddenly we change it into something that faces the city. We've got a festival place, and if you see the blue colored, it was just done for fun because the Prime Minister said, I just wish I can see blue water in the river. And when during the opening we put the color blue there, and yes, your river is already blue. So it was the lights, and Kuala Lumpur has started to change, and we thought that we will be a fare better when we have a light city. So we have put all lights all over the place. We've got colors around the city at night, and because of the lights, it's very safe, and people wants to see the lights, the colorful lights in the city. So they come back and see the city at night, and it already becomes a tourist attraction. And because people are there loitering in the city, it's a safer place right now. Okay, so again, I want to show you what happened before and what we're changing. It's a bit different. You can see a very quiet city on the left, and it's starting to become very flamboyant on the right if you look at it. Okay, so can we look into more of what we have previous, because all the other slides are just showing you what we had before and what we have after. So next slide, please. Okay, so you can see. Okay, people are before that it's like motorcycle car parks and everything, and now we've got a boardwalk for 10.5 kilometers, and if you run it 2 ways, it's 20 kilometers. People are cycling around the city. This is the picture. Go back to the picture of a mosque. Previous one. Sorry, I cannot control the slide. Sorry, my internet is very bad.
Okay. Masjid India, right? Yeah.
This is the mosque, the mosque that we have. Previously, people were praying in the hot sun, where people were walking near the pavement and everything. So we built them an outdoor mosque, and it's a congregation place. Thank God for that also. So it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and people congregate there. When we build River of Life, it's not only for fun, it's also for prayer, it's also for social economy, again, it's also for religion. So can we have a look at the next slide also? Yeah, this is a fun part of it, you see. So before this is on the lower side where people live. They are all older generation people, which is very, very scared to to come out of their home because, you know, of the notoriety, and it was dark, it was dangerous. And suddenly they saw a park just behind their house, and well, this is the fun thing that they have. And currently it's very, very safe, and you can just see them, you know, all the old ladies and the old men just loitering around, having fun, dancing to very loud music themselves, and they're taking charge of the area, and it's already their river, it's not ours anymore, it's all theirs, and they took charge of the place, and they have activities by themselves. Yeah. So again, next one, we can share also some of the activities that we are having. Yeah, so they do that, which is like, you know, for city managers like us, it's satisfaction to us to be having all those things, you know, that we weren't prepared to actually plan for it, and it just come out by itself. Okay, so can we see some more of the next slides? Okay. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur has never been thought to be a cycling city because it's very dangerous. It's not connected. You can never use the street because of the amount of cars that we have. And currently, because we have our first 20 kilometers of River of Life, people are actually cycling. They're not cycling yet for going to work or anything, but it's still a recreational cycling. But we are getting cyclists like crazy in Kuala Lumpur right now. So it becomes a very, very, very great hobby. And people are now, I think currently they are all going around the place, and people are cycling all the way into Malaysia. So this is what River of Life gave actually. So, okay, can we share more of what? So again, if you see what we had before, imagining a drain, imagining a backyard where people throw rubbish, it's a beautiful place already. It's already, and I believe Kuala Lumpur has already been made beautiful because of River of Life. Okay, can we keep on scrolling into this is very far from the city center. So if you can see the crane, you will believe in me that developments are coming around the place already. We are building a lot of houses fronting the river. This is very far from the city actually, but we never thought that people would want to build, and they are building already. So we are fast recouping our 4 billion that we spent to actually clean the water, and also that's the beautification for the river frontage. So we see next. Yeah, and it also has become part of, because we go across where the disabled community, where the blind community lives. They may not be able to see it, but it's already a safe place for them to walk. So again, they don't see it, but they are safer now. They imagine that you know, it's a more sociable space where they used to have their houses there. It wasn't clean, it wasn't easy to walk. Currently with River of Life, we also provide facilities for them. It's a world-class facilities for them to actually walk to their working place, to where they will walk to the train station and also the bus station. Okay, so we see next. Okay, so the reality, I'm going to share you the reality of the place. That is the issues that we had before, because the river frontage has always been the backyard. So people start to put things. We've got water pipes that we never know, sewer pipes that we never know. And when we actually design the whole thing to be, you know, very beautiful, and we start to build, and then we found a lot of things, and that hinder the construction of the beautification of the place. So we on the fourth picture, you can see a very big, not looking very beautiful building that was right in the middle of what we wanted to plan. And then City Hall had to buy the building, and we actually demolish it for a plaza. The plaza is close to the mosque, and is being used by the mosque currently. So that's some of the sacrifices that we had to do, where the federal government will give money for the river project, but City Hall has got to come up with our own money for upgrading the plaza and the riverfront so that we get a total space rather than, you know, tiny space around the place. Okay, so can we keep, yeah. So
just a reminder, we are over the 15-minute limit, but we can wrap up in the next couple minutes if you
all right,
can.
all right.
So sorry about that.
So these are
next
all,
slide. Yeah.
I'm going to finish it off quickly. So
Thanks.
can someone who is taking care of the slides just go on very quickly, because issues are something that everyone has got to remember, that we've got vandalism again. We've got people who just lives there throwing garbage. These are all the realities of when we start doing something better than what they have been living with. Things like this happen. So this is things that I want to show you. If you are going into development into in a river, where in a country like ours, you know, like a city like ours, which is not there yet, you have to remember. So what we do now is we will start educating children. Children will be the future leaders, the future generation. We start educating the children first, so for them to appreciate what we have done, for them to appreciate the river, so that at least the next generation is going to take care of it. Okay, so the last one that I'm going to share with you is that, again, when we do things like this, we weren't able to actually manage it properly. So we've got to actually propose a management body to actually take care of the River of Life. And then we will continue with our awareness program, and we will actually look into a tighter legislation to actually control the water, control the people who lives around the river, and control the economy around the river. All right, with that, I say thank you to you guys. Thank you for inviting us to be part of this conversation. And I think we are almost there. I think we can share a bit more if we need to be sharing a bit more. But believe me, it's not a very, very easy project. It's a very, very difficult project for a tiny city like Kuala Lumpur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vaughan, for sharing this remarkable project. Obviously, it's very close to my heart. DBKL's learnings and approaches are lesson worthy for most of us working in this space, and it was very exciting to see context-specific design ideas being executed in KL. And of course, KL does have its own share of problems that we remember from the design phase, and of course in the implementation now that you've been championing. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and for sharing ROL with us again.
Thank you very much.
Right, moving on, I'd request all the attendees to take a short poll again. So this poll is about what we think are the most promising technological and design solutions for improving water quality and for riverfronts. And you should see it on your screen now. Another 10 seconds, and then we can share the results. All right. We'll share the results. So being very true to the nature of our conversation and to the principles behind which we are collected today, nature-based solutions win this poll, that they are the way to move forward as per our audience. And we are now moving to the last case study. I just want to check if we have Mr. Ashok with us on the meeting today.
Yeah, I'm here. Yes.
Perfect. So I'll just. All right. So we're now circling back home to the city of Kanpur, India, through which our revered Ganga flows. And to present the Kanpur Riverfront, we welcome Shri Ashok Kumar Singh to join us. Mr. Singh is an IAS officer of Kerala cadre, 1999 batch. He has a BTech from IIT Kanpur and a rich experience of industry and administration. He joined the National Mission on Clean Ganga in January 2020 as an executive director of projects, and he also looks after IEC. He has worked in the Ministry of Finance as well, in the Department of Financial Services, 4 years from 2015 to 2019, and played a pivotal role in deepening of financial inclusion in India. During his tenure, the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana expanded and 33 crore people were provided with accounts and RuPay cards. And the network of bank mitras was strengthened and banking services were made available at doorstep. Welcome, Mr. Singh, and we request now that you take the stage, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mansi. Moderator of the session, webinar on global case studies on river cities and climate action. My esteemed speakers, colleague speakers, Ms. Noorjani Noordin, Mr. Mark Ojal, keynote addressee, Shri Rajiv Ranjan Mishra ji, Srimati Parul Agrawala, the listener of this webinar, and my esteemed colleagues and friends. It is indeed a pleasure to speak on the case study of Namami Gange Kanpur before you. And before we take up the case study of the Kanpur, I would also like to take you through the journey which Namami Gange and NMCG has done for the last 5 years. Next slide. These are the threat to the river, which we all know, depending upon the level of development which the nation is, or the river cities, how they treat the water. These are the problems which have been identified, and depending upon its magnitude, we all recognize and understand these things. But to me, the biggest and foremost is the basically sewage and industrial pollution. And the next visual pollution is that solid waste. Next. So this, I'll also take you to the history of this cleaning of River Ganga, that we had a national Ganga plan that we started in 1985. However, from 1985 to 2014, the impact of the program was not visible. And then in 2014, a review of the program was carried out, or the CNFS was carried out of the facilities which have been created under this Namami Gange and otherwise. And based on the feedback, and then the new program Namami Gange was designed, and it has got mainly these 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars: one is the Nirmal Ganga, that is unpolluted river. Second is Aviral Ganga, that is the ecology and the flow of the river to be maintained. Third is Jan Ganga, that is a people river connect. And the 4th one is a Gyan Ganga, research, policy and knowledge management. Next. We sanctioned near about 330 projects worth 29,000 crores. And as I said previously, that this effort is different from the previous effort, and then the way it differs is basically the PPP approach. We basically introduced the public-private partnership. In a sense, what we found that the sewage treatment plants were constructed, but they were never operated, or they were never performing. So in order to have a skin in the game, we introduced this PPP model, wherein the 40% of the capex we pay, and the 60% of the capex is brought in by the concessionaire, and the payment is linked to the performance over the next 15 years. So this ensures resource optimization. This also ensures the right selection of the technology, This also ensures the quality of infrastructure, and this also ensures that water is getting cleaned. We also then moved on to another concept called One City, One Operator, wherein all the brownfield, greenfield, both the projects were given to one operator, so that the multiplicity of the accountability should not be there. Because if there are multiple players, then obviously the players will try to shift the blame from them. And therefore we decided on this One City, One Operator, and we have a bigger cities like Kanpur, Prayagraj, Mathura under One City, One Operator, and then we have a smaller cities also under One City, One Operator. Next. This is a glimpse of the sewerage infrastructure in the Kanpur. We are creating a new STPs, 50 MLD capacity, rehabilitation of the old work, that is a 425 MLD. Then the biggest one is basically Sishamau Nala, which was draining 140 MLD of the sewage directly into the river Ganga for the last 120 years. So this Nala has been tapped, and now the water is getting treated, and then only it is released back into the river, and operation and maintenance of all the assets. So this gives you the glimpse of all the actions which we have taken. First of all, it is on the HAM model, that is a hybrid annuity mode, means initial investment 40% is being done by the concessionaire. We are also having this One City, One Operator, wherein the brownfield projects are also rehabilitated and will be maintained by the same party for another 50 years. And this has this has started showing its results also. Next. Industrial pollution abatement is also very important aspect, and we have taken certain steps. That is one of the 100% annual inspection of the gross polluting industry. And we found that the compliance observed have risen from the 51% to near about 88% from 2016 to 2018-19. The common effluent treatment plants are also under progress for the Tannery and the other clusters. Next. So this very clearly shows the impact of the Namami Gange program, the impact of approach of the program. We can see that dissolved oxygen, which was hovering around 6+, it has touching now 8. We also see that dissolved oxygen, BOD, biological oxygen demand, which was near about 5.5, now it has gone down to less than 4. So we see that the water is becoming healthier and much more cleaner for the life, aquatic life. Next. We also realize that the planning for the river city is very essential. If we look at none of the cities, every city wants that the water which comes to them should be clean, but they don't bother whether the water which they are leaving into the river, when the river leaves the city, whether that water is cleaner or not. And this is happening because the river cities, when they plan for do the planning, the river or the water bodies are hardly in their plan. And it's mostly, we all know that the money is spent on the road, on the solid waste management, on the lighting, on the schools, on the hospitals and other services. But the river is the very neglected in the planning process. So therefore, we have tried to bring in the river management plan as a part of the master plan of the city. And we are also working on the framework for managing the urban river stretches. Next. This is the framework for managing the urban river stretches in river Ganga River Basin. We have identified the 10 objectives which should be around which this urban river stretches should be managed. We have a regulation of activities in floodplain. pollution-free river, rejuvenate water bodies and wetland, enhance riparian buffer, increased reuse of the treated water, maximum good quality return flow, eco-friendly riverfront projects, leveraging on the economic potential of the river, river-sensitive behavior among the citizen, enlarge the citizen in the river management activities. Next. We also conducted a workshop with the working group with the stakeholders and the workshop, and wherein the Jal Nigam, Kanpur Development Authority, Forest Department, PSI Kanpur, Kanpur Nagar Nigam, that is a municipal corporation, Indian Institute of Technology, Tourism Department, and this working group basically came out with a action plan that what needs to be done in the next say 10 years and next 5 years, and they came up with the action plan to integrate the river in their planning. Next. And these are the 19 tangible intervention which has come out of the URMP Kanpur, and we can see that it's basically to make the water more visible in our city life. So it's about master plan. It's about GIS based database for the water bodies. It's about developing the riparian zone along the rivers and water bodies, reuse of treated water. So basically, these are the 19 elements which have been identified, and we are working on it. Next. This is the proposed concept for the rejuvenation of water body in the Kanpur, whereby we want to have this we have seen in the presentation made by the other colleagues also. So this is what we intend to do. We should have a game and sitting zone, lake edges, flexible play and gathering zones, promenade, walking and jogging trails, afforestation. So this is the concept on which we are working. Next. This is the one of the initiative of Namami Gange, that is our NMCG initiative, wherein we have constructed this 11 ghats. We have constructed crematoriums, 2 crematorium, and this is the picture of Atal Ghat. So what has been noticed that after this these ghats have been made, a lot of people have started coming and using the space. They have started spending some time on the bank of a river. And the biggest change which has happened is basically the ownership of the river has reversed. Earlier, people, while crossing the river, they used to throw the plastics bags full of waste into the river. But now the people have started questioning that. They have also stopped that. And that is the biggest change we have seen, that the people are getting aware. People have started owning the river. Next. We also carried out the cultural mapping, our heritage, both tangible and intangible, and of not only this Kanpur, but also all along the Ganga. Some 85 towns have been selected, whereby our cultural heritage is being getting mapped. And we intend to develop these cultural heritage for the tourism, for the better facilities, for the livelihood, for the rejuvenation of the river banks. So it's going to be very good data and metadata for our future work on the river side development and the river plan. Next. This is another thing which we have taken up. We know that the small rivers basically are very important for to maintain the ecological flow in the river. They are like a veins in the body, and therefore we have also taken up the small river rejuvenation, and many of the rivers like Sai River, Singar River. This is in the Kanpur, but in the rest of the basin also, many of the rivers are being rejuvenated by the with the support of the civil society, with the support of the NGO. And I'm very sure in the coming days, we will see more and more water bodies and small rivers getting rejuvenated. Next. And this is what I have to share with you. If there are some questions, if there are some queries, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh. It's actually very, very heartening and encouraging to see state-led and state-driven projects which are climate responsive. And I hope this work will set precedents for other Indian cities to embark on their journeys as well. And we're very grateful to you for sharing your thoughts today. After a short poll, we'll open the floor for questions. So just the last poll of the day. Do you think river catchment within urban centers should be categorized as eco-sensitive zones? And that should show up on your screen now. And right after this, we'll take any questions that the audience may have.
Yeah, strongly agree, yes.
So I think you can see the results on the screen. Most of us are in consonance and we resonate each other's thoughts that we strongly agree that river catchment zones should be made eco-sensitive zones with some measures on the development that should be allowed within those catchment areas. So thank you for that. And with that poll result, we'll move into the Q&A session. We have, I think, one or two from the audience. And just give me a second, I'll pull those up. All right, yes. So the question is that do you think mainstreaming city rivers with city's master plan is going to streamline the urban development scenario of the city with sustainable urban river management? So if I can paraphrase it, it's if the river management is mainstream into the master plan, would that change the urban development scenario or not? Any of the presenters, please feel free to answer that question with your experience. I think all the three presenters are on mute.
I can go.
Please, Mark. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, the question is, do you think mainstreaming city rivers within city master plan is going to streamline urban development scenario? Yes, I think one of the key things, and just in the last presentation that Ashok just presented, he shared how they're moving towards one city, one operator approach. The main problem that many cities face today is uncoordinated management. Mm-hmm. Everything is sectorial, from infrastructure planning and design to housing to environmental management. So I think if we look at the city from the river planning perspective, then we look at how to plan with the city at the core of the planning, with the river or the water at the core of planning. Then we bring all stakeholders together, from infrastructure planning and design to sports, the social services part, the environmental management. We have housing because as we've seen all together, informal settlements tend to occur around rivers. So if we look at it from that perspective, then it can help us rethink how we plan our cities and of course, how we manage our cities. And then, of course, with that, the cities then embrace the water.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mark. Appreciate your thoughts. We have Mr. Rohila, whose hand is raised. Mr. Rohila, if you would unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Just wanted to ask Mark and Noorzani, just wondering that, though focus is on river, but river is a reflection of catchment. And when we talk about an urban area, this catchment word is replaced by urbanizable area. How did your works interact with land use planning and the design is only a very small piece of work, which you can say it looks good. But then how does it interface with planning, which is urban planning or land use planning? Because the watershed word or the catchment word gets replaced in planners' language as, the urbanizable area where you cut the pieces of land into commercial, industrial, institutional. How did that interface with your river restoration? Or it is river restoration, or is a river being converted into a canal?
I can answer that first. What happened to Kuala Lumpur was that the river that we have actually ran right in the middle of an urban area. So we actually do not have industry, and we do not have, we do not have too much housing before. Okay, so it goes right into the urban area, and we have decided that we actually look into what government lands that we have first, because that would be the catalyst. So we actually design what the capability of the government land, and then we look into an action plan which consisted of all the land around the river. And then we started to increase the intensity of development there to actually help people and to actually become the catalyst for them to grow or to build. So when we start putting up the intensity of the building and they saw the river coming up pretty, what happened is a lot of people wants to build housing because they wants to face the river. And with a very high intensity, they have a lot of expensive condos that were able to be built there. And then, which again becomes a catalyst for the second layer, which used to become the first layer, because it's already fronting the river. It becomes the second layer, fronting the road. So the development started like that, where the intensity of the buildings facing the river helps to become the catalyst for economy. And then when there are people living there, there are smaller economy, there are shops being built, there are restaurants being built. So it helps also the lower sector of the economy. So in the end, it becomes a more vibrant place. And we believe that the 4 billion that we invested will come back very easily to us. So it's all about an action plan and urban design again, and treating the river as a frontage and increasing the intensity of development around it. So because we don't have industrial, we don't have everything else. So again, a lot of people with large rivers like you guys wouldn't want a high intensity building to be fronting the river, but we are all high intensity because we are our river of life is in a very highly urbanized place. So it doesn't matter, it increased the economy by building more, actually.
So just to say that it was a reactive and a curative approach, not a preventive.
Yeah, people were very reactive to, it started very slow, but when they saw the river being clean, when they saw the beautiful part of it, and when they saw that people are using it, then suddenly the spur comes in and everybody's building. So we are quite good at that. Yeah, the increasing the intensity of the development to actually becomes a catalyst to people building around the river, actually. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Royal, and thank you, Pawan, for your answer. We'll take one more question, which is on the chat box. And I see another hand raised. We'll quickly do that. The question is from Vipin, and he's asking, sorry about that. He's asking about what the speakers think about sand mining, and should we do sand mining, river sand mining or not? And how does it impact the carrying capacity of the river? Perhaps Mr. Ashok, if you would be able to answer that question, if you've encountered that problem with Kanpur.
Okay. I'll take this question.
Thank you.
Actually, this sand is a basically part and parcel of the ecology of the river. And it's true that sand gets replenished every year, but then some scientific study has to be carried out how much the sand can be taken out. Sand also basically acts as a filter, and whatever the water which goes down to the groundwater is basically purified by the presence of the sand. And sand has got its own ecosystem, a lot of life revolves around it. And therefore, the sand mining should be allowed only after conducting the scientific study. Otherwise, the river should be left as it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashok, for answering that question. Okay, for the last question, we have the smart citizen. Her hand is raised. If you would please ask your question, unmute yourself.
Sure, thank you. I'm trying to understand the remit of Namami Gange. I guess it covers the rivers, of the tributaries, distributaries, and the Ganga. But who takes care of the rivers south of the Vindhyas? Whose responsibility is that? Is there because there's enormous amount of attention on the Gangetic plain, but I'm being from Pune myself. I just had a question.
Thank you for that. May I know your name, ma'am?
Oh, sure. Sorry, that's my portal. It's called, I'm Vinita Shetty, and I'm convener of Placemaking India.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Shetty. Thank you for your question. Mr. Singh, would you be able to answer that question? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a very relevant question which you have asked. It's true that Namami Gange mandate is basically the river Ganga basin, which comprises of the 5 main stem states and plus 6 other states which are part of this river Ganga basin. For the rest of the rivers of the country, we have another organization called NRCD, National River Conservation Department. And they are supposed to handle the pollution abatement related works for the other rivers. Since the problem in the Ganga was much more rare, and I know that some of the rivers of the south are also looking out for a similar kind of attention which we gave it to the Ganga. But since there is a separate organization, they are the one who are supposed to look at it. But having said this, we also got a lot of inquiries from the many states to help them in cleaning the river. So whatever successful model we have, we are communicating to the states. And we are also providing the technical assistance to go ahead. For instance, the HAM model, hybrid annuity model, the Niti Aayog has adopted and they have become the advocacy for this model. And because of our efforts, now Hyderabad is the another city which has awarded the work of the cleaning of the Musi River on a HAM model. So HAM model is already getting a lot of traction, and a lot of states are going to do it in the coming days. Similarly, we also guide the states that how systematically approach the cleaning of the river. So kind of a technical assistance we are providing them. As and when the government funds get scaled up in the NRCD, in coming days, probably we will see more activities on those sides. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope this answers your query.
Yeah, the National Rivers Conservation Department?
Directorate. National River Conservation Directorate, NRCD.
Is based in Delhi, or it's New Delhi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh, and thank you, Ms. Shetty, for that question. And with that, we'll close the Q&A session and move towards the closing of the webinar. And again, thank you from the, very, very grateful to all of you for a scintillating discussion and for sharing your thoughts, ideas, insights. And on behalf of UN Habitat, I'd like to thank all the presenters for giving their valuable time, sharing their projects, sharing insights, and for fostering a very relevant discussion. And with this webinar, we're also coming to the close of Urban October. We celebrated Urban October 2021 with great enthusiasm with excellent participation from enthused citizens, professionals like yourselves, the government, private sector, NGOs, academicians, professionals, students, and various other communities that joined us throughout this month. We hosted multiple events, and the topics varied from data-driven circular financing in cities to building climate-smart cities. We hosted a training session on how do you plan for climate change for young professionals. We also had a session on how do you accelerate private sector participation in affordable housing and inclusive housing in the country. And we had a session. The last session we had was with the academic institutions to discuss about how climate change and the current skill sets requirement for urban practitioners, for young professionals, and for mid and senior level as well. And today's discussion on river cities and climate action marked our last event for Urban October, and is also marking the celebration for us for World Cities Day, as we mentioned when we opened the webinar. And we really hope to have continuous discourses and dialogues around these themes throughout the year, and look forward to your active participation and support. And lastly, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation again to all the participants, the organizing team at UN Habitat, who generously helped us to make this event and the previous events come together successfully. We will definitely share all the proceedings, the recordings of this discussion on our website and on our YouTube channel, and we'll send it over to the participants over email and to get your further feedback. And before I let you go, I know we're running over time. I'll request you to take 5 minutes to fill a feedback survey, which you should see on your screen now. You can scan the QR code through your smartphone and fill the survey. It'll just help us to organize future discussions in your areas of interest and mutual interest with our agency as well. So just 5 minutes of your time. And again, gratitude from the bottom of our hearts for your time today and your valuable insights. Stay safe and have a very good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mark.